Vinyl crackle. Peace, peace, it's your boy 6 Cents. Thank you for tuning in. In my last video, I talked about my recent transition to iOS and producing beats completely on my iPad. And the whole process has been really dope. My output has increased a lot. And one of the things about this process that I was a little scared about that actually ended up being really cool was transitioning my sample library to a new DAW. Coming from Ableton and going into Beatmaker 3, which is what I mainly use to make beats on the iPad, I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose the ease of pulling up sounds and pulling up anything that I've sampled really quickly and really easily. And it got me to realizing that I've kind of future-proofed my collection of samples. I've set things up in a way so that no matter what DAW or what hardware I want to transition over to at any point in time, I can bring my samples along with me. And I think that was something that came with time, with the painful experience of losing my sample library. And now that I have things to a comfortable point, I wanted to talk about how to do the same thing for your library. If you're a new producer, or if you're just somebody that's looking to get a lot more organized with the way you keep your files. So before we go forward, if you like this kind of content, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment below, engage with the channel, and let me know what kinds of things you want me to discuss. I'm here for you. So when I first started making beats, this was a while ago, I used Fruity Loops 2.5 just to give you an idea of how long ago that was. I'm dating myself. But when I first started, I would sample from everywhere just like I do now. And I had WAV files on my desktop and in a download folder and just all over my computer. So when I started to work with artists and had to do things like preparing track stems and sending full mix downs, it became problematic. Pulling all the source material together, things would get lost. And if hard drives failed, that was it. I lost my entire catalog of samples and my entire sample library. So as I started to move on to other DAWs, really when I moved on to Ableton, I got serious about how I organize my files. So if you look at my sample library now, I have a collection of all my instruments and everything is sorted by type. So there's a folder for drums with subfolders for kicks, snares, hi-hats, percussion. I have folders for strings, folders for keys, and I stick to this. I know it takes a lot longer to set up your library this way and having all of the sounds categorized properly. But if you do that on the file level, if you do that not just tagging and not just tagging within the DAW itself, because a lot of DAWs can do that, but if you take that extra step and do it on the file level and really put things in their proper folder, no matter what you use going forward, you'll be able to take that whole sample library and very easily organize it again. One of the reasons why I wanted to get a 256 gig iPad like this one is because I wanted to be able to throw all of my samples, all of my content onto the device and then just get to work and recall it whenever I want. So being able to put in a full library was going to be huge for me. And luckily, Beatmaker actually made that process really, really easy, I'm glad to say. So by having a folder of all of my sample library that I can go to, all I did was compressed that folder and then took that zip file and opened it up in Beatmaker. And once I opened it up in Beatmaker, I was able to see all of my subfolders neatly categorized by type. And this is really useful in a DAW like this because they use a tagging system. So I was able to go into my kick folder, select all of the files that are in that folder, all of my kick drums, and then tag them as kick drums. I did that for every type of instrument. So now when I'm pulling up a new track, if I want to load up a kick, I can just go to that folder of kicks. If I want to load up a snare, I can go to that folder of snares or just search for snares. And it makes the workflow so much quicker. One of the big reasons why I'm able to make a lot more beats, A, it's because I can pull this iPad everywhere, that's obvious. But B, when it comes down to pulling in new sounds, it's as easy as typing in snare, dragging and dropping onto a pad, and I get to work. I really, really like that workflow. Now, I think it's important to talk about the other side of future-proofing your library, and that comes down to sample storage and where you're locating all of these files that you have. It's great that hard drives have gotten a lot more reliable, I still follow the old school mantra of having all of your collection in multiple places. So I have a main sample folder that's on my computer, and when I'm bringing in new samples, everything goes to that folder. But after that, I copy that folder to the cloud via my iCloud drive. I copy it to my Google Drive, and then I put it on a flash drive and a smart media drive. So I have all of my sample library in multiple places in case one goes away one day for whatever reason. And I also have it on some of those obscure formats like smart media, in case I'm collaborating with somebody and they have a weird piece of hardware that can only read weird cards. Now, if you have a collection of sounds already and your library is already not organized well, or if you don't have a collection of sounds at all and you're looking to start the right way, I get it. It sounds tedious, right? It sounds like it's going to take a lot of minutes, and it will. But I really think the process of organizing your samples, it's a necessary pause in the creation process. It lets you really think about your sounds independently of writing. I'm a fan of getting samples any way you want. You can use a plethora of the new apps we have. I have the Arturia V collection, and I use that to create a lot of my own melodic samples. I'm also a big fan of using Splice. And the beauty of using either of those methods is that as you bring things in real time, you can properly categorize and catalog them in the right folder. So again, talking about that main sample folder that I have on my computer, if I want to get a bunch of new drums, I go to Splice and I say, okay, let's start with kicks. And I get nothing but kicks for an hour or so, or a half hour or whatever. And then once I have a whole folder of Splice collected kicks, I drag all of those over to my main sample folder, and then I do the same for the next type of instrument. And it makes the creation process so much more fun, so much more fluid. I gotta say, like, the big benefit for me in switching to this device has been how fluid creation has been. There's no separation between, oh, I wanna get an idea out, and oh shit, I can just do that. I almost have to remind myself. Like, I was upstairs, my studio is downstairs in my house. I was upstairs with the iPad in front of me, and I had like a melody in my head. I was like, oh, this is a cool little melody. I gotta get this captured when I go downstairs. And I was like, oh wait, my iPad's right here. Duh, forgot. And I popped it open, got the melody down. Before you know it, the song's done. It's so hard to stay inspired nowadays. We're working hard. We're trying to make everybody happy, ourselves happy. So I'm really, really leaning hard into flow state and staying inspired. And having a really organized sample collection, no matter what DAW you're working in, whether it's iOS or not, is a great way to stay on point and engaged. So I hope you took something from this. If you like this kind of content, again, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Comment below if there's anything that needed some clarity. If you have some cool tips on organizing your samples, if you're using any plugins or just any workflows and philosophies that work for you, please share that information. It's all about us building this community and continuing to keep this hip hop culture educated and refined so it stays for a long time. Much success. It's your big homie 6 Cents. Peace and love.